put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O's, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Play it on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O's, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years, Raymond Mark
The sickest NHL podcast. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here on the Sick Podcast Network. He's Pierre McGuire. I am Jimmy Murphy, coming to you live from TD Garden before Game 6, Bruins Panthers. Very calm on here now before the storm here, but in a couple hours, this place will be rocking.
I'm sure it will. Most of the playoff venues have been rocking until you got to Carolina last night and Chris Kreider putting on a show in the third period.
Wow.
The rocking stopped in that home building pretty quick after Kreider's performance.
Yeah, that was something for the ages there. I got to give credit to Jeff Marek, Pierre. He looked it up earlier. I heard him on the radio today. The last player to do that, and it was pretty recent, actually, I think, Jonathan Marchessault got a natural hat trick in the third period against Edmonton in a playoff game recently. I want to say last year or the year before. They were losing. He tied it, and he gave them the go-ahead goal with that hat trick. So twice in 2 years, pretty amazing that that's happened. But look that specific one when they go ahead 3-2, Pierre, I think is really how they beat the Hurricanes and how they got their game going. And you said they needed to do it yesterday on the eye test. Is the cycle game. I mean, it was just amazing, the cycling that went on that led to that goal. And, you look in front, Kreider's just too tough to handle right there. It's just, I forget the defenseman off the top of my head right now, but what are you going to do? I mean, Chris Kreider's a big boy.
He's big, and, you got to give Ryan Lindgren a lot of credit there too. Not known for his offense, coming down and creating an opportunity, makes a real slick pass through the crease. To me, the one thing is, with Kreider, I'll never forget when he was playing at Andover, Phillips Andover. One of his line mates was Garnet Hathaway. They were steamrolling every team. There were games where Chris would get 4 and 5 goals in a game, and they had to bench him because he was just dominating so much. I'll remember his performance at the 2010 World Junior in Saskatoon. John Carlson with the golden goal for the U.S. in a packed building in Saskatoon, an amazing World Junior. But what he's done now, all those other great accomplishments that Chris has had, think about this. 117 games played in the playoffs for the New York Rangers. 117. But this is the one that blows me away. Nobody's close to him in terms of goals for.
Yeah.
As a New York Ranger. Think about all the great players, including the late Rod Gilbert, who he's been patched for a while. But Brian Leetch, Mark Messier, Wayne Gretzky. Now, this is only as a member
of the Rangers.
Rangers. So Chris, was drafted there in 2009. He did 3 years. People forget this about Kreider. Didn't do one and done. Didn't do 2 and out. He did 3 at Boston College before he turned pro. And his first 2 years were basically 50-50 between New York and Hartford in the American League. So, again, you look at, he was developed properly. It was not the rush job. And I would say this, and I know Chris would probably, if he was listening, would say, I don't know about that, but maybe he would now. Tortorella was a good first coach for Kreider.
Yes.
He was.
Sure.
I was there. I did most of their games.
Yeah. Yep.
He was hard on him, man. He was hard on him. Whether defensive zone recognition, not swinging away from the puck, like little subtle things that he was good, but he was hard on him. And I think Chris benefited from that.
He understood it, and he appreciated and accepted it. And I've heard Brian Boyle talk about that too, about how Torts helped Kreider a lot, helped him as well.
Boyle was there, 100%.
Yeah. So good call by you there. And Pierre, of course, the other game. I mean, every game has been one goal. This has been a hell of a series. The Edmonton Oilers and the Vancouver Canucks. What's that?
The coach of Vancouver.
I know, Rick Tocchet. He had him good. Now, look, I still think that Pettersson's got a whole lot more to offer, Pierre, but let's call it like it is. I thought he played better last night. I know he wasn't, the offensive juggernaut that everyone wants, but I did like his play. He came with a little more oomph to his game last night.
He was better. I would cede to that. The crowd was trying to get him going too.
Oh, yeah.
They were trying to get him going. One of the things, obviously, is goaltending. And you got to give Cal Pickard a lot of credit. He played really well for Edmonton. The shots in that game were 35-23 for Vancouver. Mm-hmm. So that's obviously a huge advantage for Vancouver. But the other thing is the hits. 41-23 for Vancouver.
Yeah.
You don't think that was part of their plan?
Oh, yeah.
It was, for sure.
It has been.
And that comes from the coach.
Yep.
So everybody had the rope last night. There were no passengers. Everybody jumped on. Everybody had a rope. So they did that. And to me, the guy, and we talked about it with Mark Spector yesterday, the guy that had to elevate the most, forget Pettersson, was JT Miller.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, did he?
Oh, yeah. And by the way, that's twice this week, Pierre, where we've said that a certain player has had to elevate his game, play to his potential for his team to win. It was Charlie McAvoy earlier in the week and heading into Game 5 on Tuesday, and then again JT Miller yesterday. So, for our folks out there that like to throw some props on players, you might want to go to CBET if Pierre all of a sudden says this guy needs to step up tonight in the Florida game, or this guy needs to Florida-Boston, or this guy needs to step up in Colorado-Dallas, because he's 2 for 2 this week, boys. Just letting you know. So you want to go over there right now, check out CBET, check out all the props, check out all the game lines. You'll go there right now. Let's pull that up right now if we can, folks. And you will get $300 Canadian refunded to you on your first bet, win or lose. So right off the bat, you're playing with house money. Go over there right now, check it out. But then maybe circle back if we hone in on a certain player later on in this show today. And speaking of this show, we're going to focus on that Panthers Bruins series with the great Michael Russo, who's from The Athletic. He usually covers the Wild, but they didn't have anyone on the Panthers beat this year, so they sent him down, and he's been covering this series, going back and forth between Boston and Florida. So he will be joining us here on the eye test very shortly. But Pierre, before we go to that, I want to go to a play that everyone was talking about last night and this morning in that Vancouver-Edmonton game, and it was a tripping call on a charging call, on Elias Pettersson. And a lot of people wondering, and instantly when I saw it, immediately that's charging? So let's go to the play right now and let's listen to it, and then we're going to explain why it actually was charging. And I haven't heard anyone talk about this today all over the airwaves because I listened nonstop all day. We're going to tell you why it actually was charging.
This is up the ice. How can you get charging when you're standing still? I didn't quite understand that one. The reverse hit, the puck's gone, and he comes back at forward.
Boy, that one's hard to figure unless you're reading that.
Okay, so Pierre, you alerted me to this morning. I'm going to read this rule. This is right from the rule book. And, maybe people need to open up the rule book a little more before they react and they have questions about things instead of just going off on the officials. According to Rule 42 of the NHL rulebook, a charging penalty can be assessed as a minor or major penalty and shall be imposed on a player who skates, jumps into, or charges an opponent in any manner. The jumps into definitely happened there. If you see the play, I urge anyone who hasn't, just go on X and Google it or put it in the search box. You'll see it. But that's what Pettersson did. He jumped into the player. So they got it right, Pierre.
And that's why when we talked this morning, I said to you, Jimmy, go pull the rule up and let's read it to the audience. Dan O'Rourke and Francois St. Laurent were the officials doing that game. That's a tough game to referee, and that's a really tough call to make. The truth of the matter was, by the letter of the law, and that's all people have to wrap their head around, the letter of the law, O'Rourke and St. Laurent made the right call. They did. Yep. Whether you agree with them or not, that's in the rule book. So they're doing their job. Okay, I get that. The call of the game, and you'd have to go look at it, and it was the right call, is Matt McPherson on the Phil DiGiuseppe goal.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
I don't know how, as a linesman, he got all that stuff processed in milliseconds and deemed that, obviously Draisaitl brought the puck back over the blue line and that the change happened for Vancouver, so the play stayed alive and it was still onside. It was an unbelievable piece of officiating by number 83, Matt McPherson. He deserves a huge amount of credit. So as much as everybody wants to rain heck on the officials, I think in this case, especially the Pettersson one, and I'm so proud of you for pulling it up, Jimmy, O'Rourke and St. Laurent, number 9 and number 8, those are their numbers. They got it right. They got the call right by the letter of the law. But the guy that stepped up even higher is Matty McPherson. What a call he made.
Yeah.
He just Giuseppe goal. phenomenal call.
And you know what, Pierre, you made a good point there when you're talking about it just now. That is, I think, by far, maybe so far in the playoffs, this has been the toughest series to officiate because it's so intense. It's so passionate. You have two really, and I mean this in a compliment when I say crazy, you have two crazy fan bases going at it. So, you know, the refs know they're going to be target number one there, and they're going to be in a firestorm. So it takes a lot, but you got to stick to your guns, and they were right on that call there.
Yeah, it's an inflamed environment. There's no question.
Perfect
and
word.
And I hope, and I'm going to be the first person to say it, I've made a lot of mistakes too when it comes to the rule book, and whether I was coaching or whether I was broadcasting, because there are subtleties in there that sometimes you just miss. There are. And most people that aren't paid the referee, they don't even read the rule book.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They just take for granted, the rule book. So it's interesting, but I want to give credit where credit's due, because one of the things fairly, I think, is we've said the officiating hasn't been the strongest part of the playoffs this year.
No.
But in that case, they did get it right, and it's easy to beat them up, but you got to give them credit.
Yeah.
When they do it right.
We want to be fair here.
People can disagree all they want. They can say, McGuire and Murphy, you guys don't know what you're talking about. Read the rule book.
Right. If you don't like the rule book, that's one thing. Hey,
change it. But right now, that's the rule.
It is. Good point by you. So that's been an interesting series, Pierre. I really was, I got to say, and you brought up Tocchet there, the more these playoffs go on and the roller coaster that this series has been and sort of riding that wave, so to speak, he's done such a good job handling his players and handling the media. So he deserves a lot of credit for that out in Vancouver right now.
He does. The other thing, though, I will say that the players, they wanted a cleaner environment in Vancouver. For whatever reason, something had gone off the rails there. I don't know if it started when Travis was there. I don't know if it happened when our friend Bruce Boudreau was there. I don't know.
Yep.
I don't know. But something happened. The thing was off the rails. And for whatever reason, Rick's got it back on the rails, because these guys will do whatever it takes to play for him.
Yeah, I agree.
And the Exhibit A, I'm telling you right now, is JT Miller.
I knew you were going to go there. I was just going to say that. Great minds think alike.
JT Miller is Exhibit A.
Because what did he want, Pierre, before Rick got there? He wanted out. Flat out said, I want out of here.
Out.
And then Rick gets there, and that changes, and he's been their best player ever since then. He is the heartbeat of that team. All right, let's go to the heartbeat of The Athletic and one of the best beat reporters around. He did the Panthers way back in the day, and now he's sort of half on the beat again for The Athletic during this playoff series, and that's Michael Russo joining us here on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
What's going on?
Hey, Mike, how are you?
I'm doing well. Nice to see Pierre in person again.
Hey, Mike, how are you, my man? Great to see you.
What a peaceful background you have there.
I know.
I'm in Belmont. I'm in Belmont, Massachusetts. I'm away from where Jimmy is right now.
I'm at the arena already. I know Mike's across the street in his room. He's going to be over here shortly. But let's go, Mike. Let's get right into this series that we're about to cover Game 6 of, and go back to Game 5. And Pierre and I, when we were on that day, were saying, and we had Andy Brickley on from Nesson, and we were all talking about how much the Bruins really needed Charlie McAvoy to play like the Charlie McAvoy they know he can be. And I don't know about you, but I thought that was one of his best playoff games he's had in his career. I mean, he really stepped it up. What did you see from him right off the get-go there in Florida?
Yeah, I thought he started to pick up momentum there in the third period in Game 4, and he started to look more like himself. And deep down, I've wondered throughout the playoffs if he's been hurt or anything like that. But he hasn't conducted himself like he's hurt. Usually, when players are hurt in the playoffs, they kind of keep him hiding. That he's not shooting the breeze with reporters and things like that. And we've seen him out front and center all throughout the playoffs. So for some reason, he's just been off his game, but in Game 5, when they needed him to be the best, he was absolutely outstanding and scored, obviously, the huge goal. But even throughout that game, I thought that he was doing everything that we've come to expect from Charlie McAvoy.
Mike, what do you expect out of the Florida Panthers tonight?
It's funny because, as Jimmy said, it's like I'm sort of half on the beat now. I'm kind of pretending like, again, that I'm an expert on them. like I was back when I covered them up until 2005. So I really don't know the MO of this team. They do seem to bounce back from losses like very few teams in the league. They also have this sort of resiliency to them where they're, even in games that they're down 1 or 2 goals, as we've even seen in the series, they come back. They've, I believe, tied Vegas for the most comeback wins in the last couple of years in the playoffs. So, even if they get off to a slow start tonight, I wouldn't I wouldn't count them out, but I think that they're going to come out. I think that they don't want to leave it to chance in Game 7. I think that they saw really the stress that the Rangers were under last night in Raleigh, and I don't think that they want to do that to themselves. Now, all of a sudden that light is at the end of the tunnel. They're the Eastern Conference Finals starting Wednesday. They're right here in the Northeast. I think that they'd like to get this over with and get some days off going into that series.
Mike, you had a great piece on Panthers head coach Paul Maurice, and Pierre and I have talked about this off the air, just how long he's lasted and how he's been able to do it. And you just see the way he's able to handle the media. And the other night when he's talking about the profanity on the bench and just totally distracting us away from the performance of his team in that game, and he gets everybody talking about that. What's been your impression of him from, I don't know if you've ever had any encounters with him before. Obviously, you've covered games with him before.
Minnesota, Winnipeg. Trust me.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
Well, even before that.
Yeah. Talk to us about his growth, Mike. Just his growth as a coach and how he's been able to, I guess, massage the media, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny that you brought that up. That I didn't even tee you up for that, Jimmy, because actually, when his first stint in Carolina, and I was covering a young, know-it-all hockey writer in Florida, he and I had some run-ins and did not get along. And we definitely, when he was the Toronto coach at one of the drafts, we hashed it out, and then it's been clear sailing since, as Pierre mentioned. Winnipeg, he's always somebody that I enjoyed talking to, and I've gotten to be around Florida the last couple of playoffs in my national role with the Athletic, and I enjoy him. Sometimes I do think that he's a bit full of it. That was kind of the gist of my story today. That he's very performative in these press conferences and things like that. He knows how to deliver a line, but us as media members, for a lot of reasons, we eat it up. One is that we all have things to write, and it's a lot better to have a coach that just feeds us, juicy quote after juicy quote than go in there after a game and have nothing to talk about. And so that was, I'll tell you what, in a game like the other night where I really didn't want to write just an old cliched, they blew their chance at their first closeout game. For somebody like me, I enjoyed it. And that was actually my question that elicited that quote. And I've gotten him to give a couple of viral moments in this series. So I enjoy him. I think that he has grown deeply in the last 26 years that he's been the head coach. He's coached the second most games in NHL history, and he's gone to Florida, and there's just a way about him that has seemingly gotten his team to go, and he just has a real quality feel for this organization. Obviously, he stepped into a really good situation, a talented team that Bill Zito has created there. The year before he shows up, they win the President's Trophy, so I don't think that he wants to at all pretend that he's some sort of miracle worker, but he's gotten them to this next level, obviously going to the final last year and then being on the brink of the Eastern Conference Final again this year. So, as a media guy, absolutely would prefer somebody like him after a game telling these stories and the funny lines and things like that. It just makes it really interesting to write about.
I always felt, guys, I mean, I don't know how Patriots reporters covered Bill Belichick over the years.
Yeah.
You talk about having, what do I write about? Oh my God, that was so boring. Or he doesn't give you anything, So it's great to have a coach like that, and whether he's full of it or not, he's given us some gold over the years. So I appreciate it. Pierre?
So, Mike, here's my question for you: how's the coach going to get Matthew Tkachuk to the next level? Because Matthew has not played well in this series.
That's a great point.
Yeah, we've been waiting for that first big Matthew Tkachuk series this entire series. Even in the first round, he was a bit on the quiet side. Even though you look at the end and he's near the top in points, he had a 3-assist game this round, but yet it just feels like we haven't seen that moment. Now it could be coming. I think the one thing about Tkachuk is that he spoiled all of us last year up until he broke his sternum. He was just absolutely magnificent, scoring huge goal after huge goal. I think the one thing here is that Barkov and that line with Reinhart, they just stir this team right now. They've got to get Bennett back in the swing of things. Verhaeghe hasn't been quite as good as we've seen him in the past. So that second line definitely has not been everything that they've needed to. The good news for Florida is they've gotten to this point because that third line with Lundell has taken unbelievable growth, and obviously Barkov's playing out of his mind. I think it's coming. I do think, Pierre, that something's up with Matthew, as all players are right now. I think they're banged up. He's taken a lot of optionals lately and things like that. We haven't gotten him a lot in person in terms of interviews. So that, to my point on Charlie McAvoy at the beginning, it just seems like they're kind of keeping him away from us, which makes me, for somebody as prolific as he is when it comes to talking. Remember, he got absolutely popped by Brad Marchand. I think it was in game 2. And maybe that is lingering as well. So I think that at some point, and they need him to come through, I think that he will.
Yeah, and one thing I'm looking at too, guys, Jeremy Swayman obviously has been the backbone of this team throughout the playoffs for the Bruins, but the way he's been so calm, so poised, what are and you can answer this too, Pierre, what do you guys think the Panthers need to do to potentially get under his skin, or can they? Is he just in one of those zones where it doesn't matter what they do?
Go ahead, Mike.
I think that they've tried. I mean, they've definitely gotten in his face. They've gotten him to retaliate a couple times. They're trying to get in him, but they in game 1 especially, they were too outside in the perimeter, not getting in front of him and things like that. I think just all great goalies that are in his zone, you just got to figure out a way to get to the net, get traffic, and try to block his eyes. He is playing unbelievable right now. I mean, I was talking to a certain GM of the Olympic team in 2026 the other day, saying, we talked about, we were talking about everybody's just assuming Connor Hellebuck and John Gibson and whoever. I mean, Jeremy Swayman has just been, magnificent, and he's just going to continue to grow. So this has been a really special playoff run for him. Even in this series, when there are times where you're just all right, is this going to rattle him now? They've gotten to him. They're scoring some goals. It never seems to do. He's just been phenomenal to watch.
Yeah.
2 other guys to remember for 2026, Trey Augustine and Jacob Fowler, but they're not in the NHL yet.
Yeah. Good point.
Then down the road. But anyways, Mike, the other thing I want to ask you about with Florida is you've got a lot of history there. You did really yeoman's work selling the game in Florida when nobody really wanted to go. And you, for whatever reason, I think professionalism, you got people to go. Are you seeing it start to turn now, Mike? Are they starting to catch up?
Yeah, I think one, they have a really good team. And the one thing growing up in South Florida, like I did, and I covered them through 05, is that there's just so much bang for your buck down there and things to do for your entertainment dollar that if you're not winning, you're not going to get people to come out there. Even as gorgeous as that area is, as gorgeous as that arena is, as good as that team is, you got to win. And from 1996 until 2002, they didn't win a playoff series. I don't care what market in this entire league that happens to, you're going to lose your fans. And so, I have a little ownership to that team. There's some sentimental feelings for me, even though my day job is covering Minnesota now. I want to see that market thrive. And it used to rub me the wrong way when people would make fun of that market and the fan base down there for not showing up. But I wanted to, but again, from 96 to 2002, there was just zero playoff success. And they had instability off the ice with multiple owners, multiple GMs, multiple coaches. And every time you change that plan, it just starts everything over again. So now Bill Zito, Frank Viola, they've brought some definite stability to that franchise. And now we're seeing them on the rise. And obviously, if they can go out and win a cup, it's just going to continue to grow. But I think that hockey, I mean, we've seen it obviously with the success of the Tampa Bay Lightning. There's so many snowbirds down there that live there all year round too. That I just think that hockey can continue to thrive there, and as long as they are delivered a winner on an every night basis.
Well, Mike, before we let you go, I want to talk to you quickly about the team you do cover now on a regular basis, and talk about going from a, we'll call it a budding hockey market to one of the biggest hockey markets in North America, maybe in the world, the state of hockey, Minnesota. What has that been like for you to cover a professional hockey team in Minnesota?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, you just feel like the fans, are reading you there. That's what every hockey writer wants. That's why I left Florida for Minnesota. Obviously, they've just done a tremendous job, even though they have not had, long playoff runs. They've done a tremendous job of packing that building every single night. I cannot wait, trust me, more than anybody, to stop writing about the $14.7 million in dead money for Parise and Suter and get that wiped off the board in 2 years, because it's given them an excuse, Pierre, to really not have a winner. It's almost bought Bill Guerin 4 years. But now it's like the second that evaporates, there's no more excuses anymore. They've got to put up or shut up and start delivering a true contender, because the fans there deserve it. And Pierre knows this well. He's called a lot of games there. He's been in that GM's chair to be interviewed for that job, and was a finalist for that job. And I would love to know where this team would have been if he had gotten one of those jobs.
Me too.
But I think Pierre understands how important it is for that market, as successful as it is in terms of filling the building, to actually be a true contender in this league. And I think the fans there absolutely deserve it.
Mike, I'm so glad you talked about that, because I love that market. I think it's a home run market. Mr. Leopold, I think, has done a real good job as a conservator of the franchise. I really do. I mean, he took it over from really renowned ownership, and he built it up. And I think he deserves some credit on that. My big thing, and I know Mike follows it, Jimmy, and this is for our really intense hockey viewers and listeners. They made a move a couple days ago, Mike, and I wanted to get your take on it, but I'll give you mine first. Putting Matt Hendricks in Iowa as a GM was really smart by Billy Guerin.
Yeah.
Because in order for them to overcome that dead space you're talking about, it's going to start with a lot of those guys that are down there. And I think Matt is going to be huge.
Yep.
Yeah, he's been their assistant director of player development, guys, and he's done a tremendous job. And he is somebody that these young kids absolutely look up to, and he goes down to Iowa all the time. And this, to me, was a natural thing. Bills wanted to elevate him in the organization, and I just think that it is. They had one of the worst teams in the AHL last year. I know that they'd lost a lot of their guys, obviously, because of the injury problems that Minnesota had, but that cannot be you cannot have a program that has that lack of a success below you in the NHL. It just kills your NHL team. You want to have a team that's just continuing to develop players down there, have success, and then elevate them to the NHL where they're ready to go and have this pedigree of winning. And so I think Matt Hendricks will absolutely bring that.
Good stuff. Mike, thank you for joining us.
Right to get this guy on.
I love it. Well, it's funny, I was talking, I bumped into him, right, Mike? We were talking last week, and I said, I don't know if you know, I'm doing a podcast with Pierre McGuire right now, and he lit up. He's a big fan of yours, Pierre.
No, I'm a big. So, not too many guys covered the team, the Florida Panthers in the old Miami Arena.
Oh, that's right.
Exactly.
We're in that place, yeah.
So he goes all the way back. He goes back to when I told you the story, Jimmy, when Jan Stevenson used to sit right behind the visitors' bench. It was hard to get your team focused. I'm going to tell you right now.
Yeah.
She was beautiful.
Pierre, was that oh, go ahead, Mike.
No, what were you saying, Jimmy?
No, I was just going to say, was that the arena where you had a certain mother behind the bench that didn't like the language that was coming? Okay.
That was
okay. All right.
But, Mike could tell you this. The rat stuff started when Mike was there.
Oh, yeah.
Scott Mellenby.
I covered that game. Calgary.
Oh, wow. I'm telling you, he was there. He covered the game.
So did that story come out right after that game, Mike? Is that how it?
Yeah, it was right after that game. They had won. He'd scored 2 goals. He killed the rat, hit it right against the board. And what's really neat is Scott Tinkler was the equipment manager at the time. He's the one that wrote on the wall, R.I.P., put the date, all that stuff. It was dubbed the rat trick the next day. But what's really neat is that Scott Tinkler, who had retired, or not retired, he moved on in his career. He's now back helping these guys in the playoffs. So every day now I see Scott Tinkler, their equipment manager, when he's
that's cool. Kid. That's awesome.
So it's really awesome. And Bill Lindsay, it's his birthday today. He scored, to me, still the most incredible goal in Panther history. Yeah. Schooled Ray Bork, Jimmy.
Yeah, I remember that. I remember.
And it's his birthday today. He's their color analyst. But what was really neat for me is just, like I was telling Billy the other day, there's just still, from even the guy, somebody that covered that team, there's like a bond between all of us that were around it, like Tom Fitzgerald and all those guys, Stu Barnes and Brian Scrudlin, Scott Mellenby. And, I ran into Jody Hull in Nashville last year. And there's just, there's I don't know, there was something special about that group of players. And even here, many, many eons later, I'm still friends with all of them.
You know what, Jimmy? I'm telling you, that's why we have people like Mike on, because that's history and nostalgia, and it's so well said. I remember those teams, the best penalty killing tandem in the league, and Mike knows this. It was Strudland and Billy Lindsay. They drove people freaking nuts, man.
Yeah. It was great. I mean, that team, I mean, it was, Fitzy and Mike Hoff and Dave Lowry. And obviously I see Joe Vanosky all the time because he does TV for the Panthers. It was a special group.
That's good stuff. Good stuff. Well, Mike, I'll see you over here shortly, and we'll enjoy the game. Thank you for joining us here on the Eye Test. We appreciate it.
Yep. Anytime, guys. Good catching up here.
All right.
I'm going to text you soon, Mike. Thank you so much for coming on. Thank you. Thank you.
Mike Russo joining us here from The Athletic on the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network. He's one of the good ones, Pierre.
He's better than good.
Oh, yeah.
He's a great – I'm just telling you, he's really good at his job, and he's great.
Is he in the hall yet, Pierre?
No.
He will be. He'll get there.
Here's a guy, even if you're down, okay? So he had his things with Maurice. I guarantee you they sat down and hashed it out, and they were mature about it.
Mm-hmm.
But he's not going to go soft if he sees something different. So he writes a column, and, there's probably some good stuff in there and some other stuff that might, not be liked by Paul Maurice. But he's going to be fair about it. He's not going to make it personal. That's all I'm going to tell you. And that's the kind of guy you want around your team.
Mm-hmm.
You don't mind him being firm. Just be fair.
Yeah.
Firm but fair matters. It matters a lot. You can't let personal agendas get in the way.
Yeah.
I won't say the team. I won't say the coach. I won't say the writer. But you could tell, and I know I talked to you about it, and you're not to say anything, but you'll know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
There's a situation in the NHL where there's no question in my mind there was a writer trying to get a coach fired. Mm-hmm. Something must have happened in a previous interview, in another life, whatever. And every week it was just crushing the coach.
Mm-hmm.
And wait a second, that's not fair. Like, this guy's done this, he's done that. I don't care. I mean, it's not bothering me, but I want fairness. Just be fair. You can be firm. You can even be a little nasty, but just be fair. And the coach ended up getting fired.
Yeah.
You know who I'm talking about. We're just not going to.
I know exactly who you're talking about.
I know you do. Coach ended up getting fired, but do you think the writer's going to get fired? No.
I know. It's not the right way to do things. Look, we all have it, Pierre. I mean, I've had my run-ins, but I'll never forget. And I'm not going to say the player out of respect. But it was when I was first coming up the ranks, and I went up to him after a tough playoff loss, and went over to him, and he thought I had written something, but it wasn't me. So he just looks at me. He's like, "What the bleep do you want? Get the bleep out of my face." And I'm like, whoa. And so he just looked at him like, all right, you know what? I'm going to back off. So the next day I saw him in practice, and I went up to him and I said, look, I don't know what I did, but I'd love to know because I want to straighten it out with you. And he looked me in the eye and he goes, Jimmy, I'm so sorry. It wasn't you. But it was, if I hadn't done that, you know what I mean? Like, I went up to him, I said, I want to straighten this out. I want to be on the, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to be even with you right now. I don't want to have this going between us. Let's get it out in the open right now. And he always appreciated that. And he's now a management member for a team. And he always comes up to me and he says, I'll never forget that. That's what more reporters should do, is to say, let's figure this out. And you don't hold grudges. That's the worst thing you can do when you're in this business, is hold a grudge.
I will tell you one instance where Mike Madonna was having a really bad game in Dallas, really bad. Hall of Fame player, iconic figure in Dallas. And I was doing the game with Gord Miller, and I was really hard on Mike during the game because he didn't play. He didn't play hard.
Uh-huh.
And I went down to the dressing room because I wanted Mike to hear it from me before he heard it from people in his family or his agent or whatever. And I went up to him and said, Mike, Pierre McGuire from TSN. He goes, I know who you are. You used to coach against me. I said, yep, I did. He goes, what's up? And I said, I just want to tell you, this is what I said about you tonight. I wanted you to hear from me and nobody else.
Wow.
And you know what he said to me? He goes, good for you. I deserved it. I wasn't any good.
It's funny. A lot of guys will say that, Pierre.
No problem with it. As long as you're there, you got to look him in the eye and say, I did this.
Yeah.
It was amazing. Like I was so grateful for the way he handled it. And every time I've seen him, he went on. He's married to Joe Micheletti's daughter, and they've got a nice, beautiful family. But I remember going through this with Mike, and I was like, I just want to tell
That's
you,
awesome.
this is why I said, and he couldn't have been a better gentleman. And he said, "Hey, I deserved it."
Yeah.
So
I've had that happen too. Like if you're straight with people, they're gonna say, "Hey, I didn't play that well." It is what it is, and they'll admit it. So that's what I love about covering hockey. I'll tell you that. But Pierre, let's get over to our comment section. I see them lining up right now. By the way, Frank Saravelli reporting recently in the last 10 to 15 minutes on X that Craig Berube will be the next head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. So interesting stuff coming out of Toronto there, Pierre, if that's the case.
The boys are having a drag race to see who can get it confirmed first. All the insiders
I know. We'll see. I'm just interested, Pierre, and we don't talk about it now. We don't have time, but I'd like to talk about it Monday. I'm interested to see what happens in Carolina. I really am, because
I think you'll know by Monday.
You think we're going to have some Carolina stuff to talk about?
They're going to go on. Yeah, they'll obviously have probably exit meetings today.
Yeah. When do you think they'll do their media blow-up day?
Probably Monday.
Tomorrow or Monday? Okay, so they'll wait through the weekend?
Wouldn't be smart to do it on a weekend.
I agree. I hate when they do that.
Yeah. The biggest question there, when is Rob Brindamore signing his contract? That's the big question.
Yeah.
When is he? And if he's not, where's he going?
Yep. I'm with you on that. I'll see if I can get us a Carolina guest for Monday. I think that would be an interesting guy. Unless we got Scotty coming up.
We're going to have Scotty next week, but Tripp would be great. Tracy.
Let's do Tripp.
I'm trying to reach Tripp today. He's traveling.
Okay.
He's going back to Michigan for the summer to be with his mother. So I think we should try somebody different.
Okay, cool. We'll see what we can do. By the way,
about you and I will debrief.
I was texting with Tripp the other day. It was it's good stuff. I'll tell you about it later. All right, let's get over. Before we get over to our questions and comments, let's tell you about our wonderful sponsor, TCS Customs and Logistics. Coach, we already told you about CBET, and I don't think we got to a player yet. Maybe we will. Maybe we'll give you that player you got to keep an eye on tonight. But go over to TCS Customs and Logistics right now and unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting, TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport, moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For no obligation customs or freight quote, contact Sick Podcast at shiptcs.com. Again, that is Sick Podcast at shiptcs.com. Let's get to our questions here on a Friday night with 2 games on deck. What do we got, guys? All right, Mike, Pierre, why don't more teams follow the Montreal route and hire a younger, up-and-coming coach?
I think they're starting
I think there's been some, yeah.
I mean, Chris Knobloch, he's doing pretty well. I wouldn't, if I were Vancouver, I wouldn't have hired anybody else but Rick Tocchet. I said it at the time. It's easy to say it now, but Jimmy knows I said it right at the time when he was hired.
Yep.
So I thought that was a really good hire.
I think Seattle might do that, Pierre. I could see Seattle doing that.
I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle did it. I wouldn't be surprised at all. I think there's a grooming process going on in Buffalo right now when they move Seth Appert up from Rochester into Buffalo. I think that's so Lindy Ruff can curry favor with the fans. They can sell some season ticket packages. The fans in Buffalo don't know Seth Appert's body of work at all. And eventually they will know his body of work, and maybe then they can hand him the reins. Greg Cronin out in I mean, he did coach a little bit in the NHL, but mostly as an assistant. So, I think that's
happening. It's happening.
What's going on in St. Louis?
For sure. Drew Bannister.
Yeah. So, no, I think it's starting to happen.
It's happening.
David Carl, Greg Carvel, those are 2 of the leading guys from the college level. Do I think there are other guys like at Quinnipiac? Do I think there's a chance for Providence coaches I'm talking about to move up? Greg Brown, Jay Pandolfo? The answer is yeah, I do. I think they're I do. I think there are opportunities, but we'll see. But younger guys opportunities.
Let's go to the next question. What do we got? Kook69. What's up, buddy? Goaltending is becoming a premium position, especially at the elite level. Yeah, you know, it's interesting. I'm glad he brought that up here because obviously we were just talking about Swayman there. But I think we've had this discussion, and I don't know if it was with a certain guest or it was just you and I on the show, but I know we have, where we were saying, like, it was kind of weird how goaltending was starting to become undervalued over the last few years. Yet when it comes down to it in the playoffs, when it matters most, if you don't have a goalie, if you don't have a guy you can depend on or you have confidence in to stop the puck, chances are you are not going far in the playoffs and you're not winning the Stanley Cup. So I think that's a great point. I think we're starting to see the tide turn back again where goalies are going to be appreciated more. I don't know what that means for contracts, but I think we are starting to see, okay, you can't ride a third string guy, think that's going to work all the time. It's happened sometimes, but you can't depend on that.
You can have all the analytics in the world. If you don't have a goalie, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
Ask Carolina.
Yep. There you go. Bingo. Somebody, a friend, I'll tell you about it later. A scout friend of mine, we're having that conversation right now about Carolina. It's interesting, Pierre, too, I know we're pressed, but it's amazing. And I think this was what we were talking about in that conversation. How many teams just sort of, we'll be fine at the trade deadline. We'll be all right. We'll let that go. I think they're going to learn now. I think they are. Next question. The Puck Bunnies. How hard will it be to get those who have been in Toronto and were coddled a bit to buy in and put in the work? It's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, well, if Berube is in fact the coach, which we believe will actually happen, it'll be very interesting. Training camp will be very interesting.
Yeah. Yep. He's going to know right away who's in and who's not, and there'll be some changes, I bet, in training camp. We'll see with the roster. All right, next question. Enter top. Pierre and Jimmy, do the Oilers go back to Skinner next game, especially after comments he made last night? I am unaware of the comments he made, Pierre. I don't know if you know what he's talking about.
I do not know of the comments that he made
but
last
either way, would you go back to him?
I thought Pickard was really good. I thought
I
Pickard
did too.
did better in this series than what Skinner's done, so I'd stay with Pickard myself, but he didn't win. So, but I thought Pickard – look, we talked about it. The shots were 35-23, and I know it was a one-goal game, and JT Miller scored in the last 20 seconds. I know all that. I watched the game like everybody else. But the truth is I thought Vancouver was a better team, and I thought that Pickard made it a close game.
Yeah, I would stick with him. I mean, hey, look at when Swayman lost a couple in this series, and everyone's saying go back to Almar. And credit to Jim Montgomery. He stuck with him, and he's been good. All right, next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, have the Canucks gotten into 97's head, meaning Connor McDavid? I think they've gotten to a lot of the guys' heads, not just 97, but that can change quickly. I mean, this has been a back-and-forth series. I still think it's going 7, Pierre, but we'll see. But I don't know. Are they in his head? I don't know. I think they're making him think a little more than maybe he does usually.
Well, so this is what happens in the playoffs. This is why we say
mind games
experience. There's a lot of things that go on. It's matchups, it's mind games, it's hits, it's cheap shots, it's clean hits. There's pressure. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it. You don't know if he's 100%. You know, that cross-check the other day that he got from Zadorov and the one in the face, from Carson Soucy, he's like, he handled it well in the media.
Yeah, he did.
How do we know how hurt he was?
Exactly. And I'm wondering about the one right above his butt, in the back there. He gets from Zadorov. Yeah. I mean, because you got to go like this, right?
I don't think they're in his head.
Yeah.
So who knows? He's playing against matchups his whole life.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're in his head.
Yeah, I'm with you on it. All right, next question. Bill Van Vagel. I heard on 32 Thoughts podcast today that if Gerard Gallant doesn't find an NHL job, there's a chance he goes to coach the Moncton Wildcats in the queue. A good possible move to stay relevant.
100%. Alain Vigneault did this when he was coaching. He went to the Quebec team in the Quebec Major Junior League. Then he went to the Manitoba Moose in the American League. Then he ended up going to Vancouver, and it revitalized his career. So the answer is absolutely yes. And Gerard knows that neck of the woods really well.
Mm-hmm.
He worked in St. John's for a long time. and his team had a lot of success when he was there. So he knows the league. He knows the area. He's from Prince Edward Island, not that far away. So the answer is, yeah, I could see that. If he doesn't get an NHL job, absolutely, I could see that.
Yeah, I think
at some point, Jimmy, this is what I try to explain to people. It's not, once you've established yourself in the league for a long enough period of time, it's not about dollars and cents anymore. You're really coaching because you have passion to be in the league, to work with people, and to win. And whether you're doing that at the junior level, the college level, the American League level, the East Coast League level, the NHL level, Europe, you're still in the game.
Yep.
And that's, sometimes people say, well, he's taking a step back. No, he actually has passion. He wants to give back to the game.
Yeah.
He's not done yet. You know, people that look at their clock when they go on the ice for practice, their watch, I don't want to hire that guy.
Yeah.
Because he's just punching a time clock.
No.
I want to go in there like you. I know what you do. You go in there. You don't look at the clock. You go in there. The only time you need to look at the clock is, am I going to make my train home or not?
Yep.
That's the only.
Or my deadline.
Or deadline. That's it.
Yep.
So I think if Gerard has a chance to do that, good for him.
And Pierre, I think if anything, as a coach, forget about, what it does for him with the passion, but just learning more. You're going to learn more. You're going to learn what the younger kids coming up the ranks, what they're thinking, how they see the game, and you're going to be able to connect with them now on a better level when they get to the NHL. So I think it's a brilliant move if he does it.
Way to go, Jimmy. Totally.
All right. Next question. Eric Landreau, question. I can see Kreider on a similar career trajectory as Shane Doan. Interesting. Not arguing they should be in, but should organizational impact and longevity carry more weight in the Hall of Fame consideration? Pierre, I know you can't really talk about the Hall of Fame thing there, but just maybe talk about the analogy to Shane Doan there.
Similar in a lot of ways. Kreider's a highly cerebral. Not that Shane isn't. Shane's very smart too. But Kreider's a highly cerebral kid. I mean, if he wasn't playing hockey, he would be doing something at an extreme level, whether it be in the law business, the financial business, a doctor, an engineer. This guy's super smart. And he's got the academic pedigree. You go to Phillips Andover and then you go to Boston College. You're doing math problems at night. You're not avoiding them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So there's similarities there. Longevity with one team, there are a lot of similarities there. Skating ability and size, very much similar. I would say this. Obviously, Kreider's been in a lot more playoff games than Shane did, just because Shane was playing for an organization that just wasn't particularly strong when he was there. But a lot of similarities, yes.
Yep. All right, next question. Marco, in your career, do you remember a UFA that you tried to sign, but the money term didn't work out and you regretted it immediately?
Talking about we didn't get?
Yes. Yeah,
for sure.
I know one. Not at liberty to say.
For sure. Yeah. And I'll never forget it. I was so angry. Like, what do you mean you're not going to allow us to have a couple 100,000 more?
Yeah.
Anyways, that player is still playing in the playoffs right now.
Yep. All right. Next question. Gally, if the Oilers manage to lose this series, what's next for them? Shop for a goalie? Saros? That would be a great pickup if they could get him from Nashville. I don't know if I know there was talk about him at the deadline, Pierre. I don't know what Nashville's thinking now, given that I thought they played pretty well in that first round series. Who knows?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of questions about their bottom six forwards in Edmonton. I think there's going to be a lot of questions about some of their defense. Not all of their defense, but some of them. So I think that there's a lot of work for whomever, whether it's Kenny Holland, Jeff Jackson, or somebody else pulling the strings on player personnel. But I do think whether they win or lose, I think Edmonton's far from being a finished product. I mean, I think they know that internally. Yeah,
I think so too. And I like that you brought up the bottom six there because Spectre mentioned that as well yesterday too. All right, next question. Enter tap. Are you aware if Mark Savard is being considered for any head coaching jobs? If so, which team would be a great fit? I am not aware of that. I haven't spoken or texted with Savvy in a while. I should reach out to him, but I think that he's going to I don't think as a head coach right now, but he'll be employed somewhere for sure.
Well, I think he's going to go to Toronto if Berube goes. I think he goes to Toronto with Berube, and he'll be part of their power play group.
Okay.
And then the smart Alex will say, well, how good was Calgary's power play last year? Because he was running it. And I can tell you, I think they were 25th or 26th in the league, so it wasn't particularly good.
Right.
But you have more – I can tell you this.
You have more ingredients
Yeah.
in Toronto.
From experience. You work in Pittsburgh with a bunch of guys that end up being in the Hall of Fame. Then you go to Hartford, and you got a lot of 18 and 19 and 20-year-olds that you know are good players, but they're not those Hall of Fame guys yet. So the power play difference is pretty significant.
Yeah.
You're still the same coach. It's just you don't have the same artillery to work with.
Exactly. But he will. That's a good call by you on Berube. I forgot about the connection there. All right, next question. State of survival. As an Islanders fan, I see they've just signed Maxime Tisblakov. I hope I pronounced his name right.
Likoff.
Okay, Cuff. I know almost nothing about him. Do you guys have any insight as to his skill set and abilities? By the way, another stealth move by Lou. I didn't hear the Islanders' name once when it came to that guy.
Yeah, no, Montreal was hard on him. I think Toronto was hard on him. So there were a lot. They have pretty good European scouts, the Islanders. They work hard on the European side of things. And David Conti's always involved, and you know what I think of David. So he is a very talented kid. This was his best year playing in the KHL offensively. Very, very skilled. I don't know how it translates. We'll see how it translates. I always throw this caveat out there with every European, well, especially Russian-born player. When they come over, there's a learning curve.
Yep.
Some adapt right away, and some don't. It takes time.
And the rink size, too, I think is huge for some of those guys.
The physicality is a lot different.
Yep.
It's different.
All right, next question. Mike, does it not look like Connor McDavid is nursing an injury? Yeah, so we already addressed that, Mike, if you weren't here. He isn't moving like the McDavid we know. We wondered that too, Mike. We'll see. We're not going to speculate what it is, but definitely don't roll it out at this time of year.
Nope.
All right, next question. Jason Logan, Tristan, that's Jason's stepson, is asking, do you think Canes ran out of gas? They played well the first half of the game, and then the Rangers turned it up and just had more bounce.
Are we talking about in Game 6?
Yes.
Yeah, no, I thought Carolina played really well the first 40 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other guys woke up and they said,
so that's the thing. Like, I don't want to knock Carolina too much. I think it was just more that the Rangers woke up.
Yeah.
And they just said, forget this. We are not going back for Game 7. That's it. That's all.
Second goal by New York, the one that Anderson should have.
You knew that. Yep. They knew.
You could see the body language.
I was just going to say, there was a shot of the bench on both benches, and you're like, uh-oh, this ain't good.
It wasn't good.
All right, next question. Kook69. I saw the NHL Utah team update on Cap Friendly today. Wow. 21st to third round picks total over the next 3 years and $45.5 million in cap space. It'll be interesting to watch this team. And Pierre, I'll throw in, as you have told us, they also have an owner who's ready to spend. So, yes, they are going to be very interesting to watch.
Yeah, they have a captive audience, too. The people want to see the team play.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, they want to support a winner, and that team's going to start to win.
They're going to be a fun team this offseason.
They are in the perfect division.
Yep.
They're in the perfect division.
Yeah, I'm really interested to watch them this offseason. All right, next question. State of survival. I think this summer will be a wild one. So many teams need to tweak or blow up. I agree. I think it's going to be fun.
We always say this before every offseason. The free
I
agent
don't know about the free agent class. I think there's going to be some big trades.
The free agent class is okay. It's not overwhelmingly like, wow, if I get this guy, we're going to win 100%. Mm-hmm. It's good. It's not great. A lot of guys sign their players long term. I do think there are going to be some trades, though.
Yeah, that's where I'm looking.
Well, I would agree with you on that. Especially around Vegas. I think there'll be not that team, the draft in Vegas, there'll be movement there. Yeah. I do think we'll have some movement there.
In the sphere. All right, next question. Bill Van Vagel. I was at the Gens game when London won the OHL title. Wow, what a team the Knights are. Strong in all aspects. What is the strongest junior college team either you have seen?
Oh,
We're talking ever?
I mean,
we're talking this year.
When I was a kid watching the Montreal Junior Canadiens play, when Gilbert Perreault was like, Réjean, Mark Tardif. I mean, I don't know. I've seen a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Lindros's Oshawa Generals were really good too. College teams, I've seen a lot of really, really good college.
I've seen quite a few in this city, Pierre, with Boston College and BU.
Oh, hey, look at the '89 Harvard team was phenomenal.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean, you can go down. I don't want to answer that question. No disrespect, but there have been a lot of.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, a long time watching games. I just can't pick one.
Exactly.
Disservice to all those other good teams.
All right. And of course, I didn't mind that 2021 UMass team. All right. Next question.
You're not.
Randy Workman. Question. Sorry, Jimmy and Pierre. One more. Does it bug you when and don't ever be sorry, Randy. We love your questions.
Yeah.
Does it bug you when NHL safety-based suspensions in injuries?
Oh, I understand what he's saying. So
yeah, I was a little lost there.
When the player gets injured and the league says, well, there was an injury there, so we're going to up the suspension.
Oh, okay.
I think that's where Randy was going with that.
I'll let you take it first.
Pierre. The one thing I'd say is that you never want to see anybody get hurt. And players get hurt.
Yep.
You don't want to see them get hurt with dirty plays either. Mm-hmm. That's not good either. Hard to say. I mean, one thing I would say, that job, the Dean of Discipline job in the NHL, that's the hardest job in hockey.
Yeah, it's a thankless job.
It's a hard. And even when you get it right, 50% of the people are going to say you got it wrong.
Yeah.
Even when you got it right, they're going to say you got it wrong.
I got to say, Pierre, sometimes, and I'm talking more, and by the way, they're testing out the sound system right now. I apologize. I got to say, sometimes it does bug me when it comes to headshots, right? And it's a head injury, or that it does the result more than the act seems to get punished more. But then I think about that all the time. I'm like, well, it's hard. The act, if the injury's not there, it's hard to say, well, this could have happened, right? Or he could have been so seriously injured. He's lucky he's not. And then give the guy a penalty. You can't give him a suspension based on what could have happened. So I get that. It's that weird gray area, but it's like, I just wish there was a way where we weren't just saying it because of the injuries. We weren't saying, okay, that's 5 games because of the injury, as opposed to it should be 5 games because this guy tried to take his head off.
I was told something today, and I'll say his name.
I don't know if that makes sense. Sorry, but
former NHL linesman Brian Murphy said something to me that was amazing.
Great last name.
He's a head of officiating in Hockey East right now. He's a really, really smart hockey guy.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about different things this morning, and he said something to me that I had never thought of, and it's a really good point. Everybody should think about this, including players. The new big thing for players is the reverse hit. It's become very very important for star players, especially when they're carrying the puck, to create separation. And Brian said something that was so smart, and I had never thought of it. When you're doing the reverse hit, you don't know where the head is of the player that you're going to reverse hit. You don't know if he's standing up. You don't know if he's crouched down.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to lead with your elbow? Or are you going to lead with your back? It's a great point. And so he said that's the danger, and he thinks that that's where the new crackdown is going to come, on the reverse hit.
Yep.
When it comes to head contact. And you know what? You look at the play last night.
A ton of sense.
With Pettersson and Warren Fogle, you look at that play. Brian Murphy's spot on that. That was – it's the first time I thought about it, and he's the one that brought it to my attention, so I want to give him credit where credit's due. Think about it. If you're doing a reverse hit, I'm going to tell all my guys when we get back to the rink on Monday about it. I thought it was a really good point. Really good.
You do that hit, I mean, you can't not be reckless. It's a great point because you don't know where you're going. You don't know what you're going to hit.
It's coming to hit you. You don't really know where his body is. You don't know where – you know he's coming, but you don't know where he is.
It's always going to be a reckless play. And I wonder you said that they could hamp down on that. I wonder if they create a penalty that's termed reckless or something like with that in it, because it is by definition of the play. So we'll see what happens.
He made a really good point. He just shows you there are smart people in the rules part of this game and the officiating part of this game that really care about the well-being of the players and the growth of the game. Nobody wants to see any player get hurt.
No.
But more than anything else, when you're buying a ticket and you're buying a ticket to go see a star player like McDavid, you don't want him hurt because of some dirty play or silly, reckless play.
Exactly.
If he gets hurt, because of a clean hit or whatever, that's part of the game. But the other part of it, you don't want to see that. Nobody wants to see that for any player.
Yep, I'm with you. All right, next question. Manny04. I don't know if that's from Manny Ramirez in 04. Wait, how come Utah gets all these first rounders? Don't they pick up where they left from Arizona? Yeah, Arizona had a bunch of first rounders, if I'm not mistaken.
All that cap space where they were taken from teams were paying them in collateral that were draft picks to take those contracts.
Yeah.
Well,
and they're just racking up the picks.
Just racking up the picks. Because they had – so this is what the fans don't realize is – well, a lot of them do. I shouldn't say that. But in order for you to get NHL revenue sharing, you have to get to the floor. And Arizona wasn't even getting close to the floor, so they had to take these contracts up to get to the floor so they can get revenue sharing.
Yep.
So that's, again, one of the little things that doesn't get talked about enough.
All right, next question. Mike, would love your opinion on Gavin McKenna. Some say he's generational. I have not seen him play. Pierre has, and he's already raved about him last week.
Oh, boy, is this guy good. I'm the big Gavin McKenna guy. I can't wait to go see him live. In Medicine Hat, he's really good, Jimmy.
Yep. All right.
He's really good.
Next question. Enter tap. What direction do the Hurricanes take now? Great regular season team, but can't seem to get the job done in the playoffs. We're going to shelve our Hurricanes talk for Monday.
I don't want to say much about it.
Let's let it sink in a bit.
This is important. I feel really badly for a guy like Jordan Stahl. I feel really badly for a guy like Brent Burns. I feel really badly for that coaching staff, who I know really well. And I feel real bad for Donnie Waddell, the GM there. I do. I feel bad for those guys. But more than anything else, I feel terrible for those fans. Those fans are unbelievable, Jimmy.
They are.
They're really, really amazing. They care. They're growing that thing unbelievable.
We will talk Canes, I promise, on Monday, because we're going to see what happens over the weekend, kind of let it sink in, and we'll reevaluate that on Monday. All right, next question. Tom Metvier. Curious if you guys think the NHL safety needs to be revamped, in your opinion. Like Pierre said, it's a tough job. I don't know. I don't think you can ever find an exact science with it, Pierre.
No.
I just think, I think they're probably always looking at different ways to do it and different ways to view certain plays. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. If I did, I'd be a millionaire.
The one thing that I'm worried about now, cross-checking is becoming more like an epidemic in the league. And I think they got to find a way to get rid of that. And one of the ways of doing it, Brian Burke had this thought a long time ago, and I believe Brian's right about this. Rather than coming in and trying to get a guy like this, you should be allowed to wrap your arms around
the bear hug, he called it, right?
Brian Burke bear hug rule. Wrap your arms around the guy and ride him in. And then once contact's made with the boards, you got to let him go.
Yep.
You can't just hold him there forever. So Brian came up with that, I want to say probably 8 or 9 years ago. It was a really good thought he had.
I remember that. Yeah.
And I'd like to see the league try that. And I think we could get away with some of this, or get away from some of these cross checks. Because I think, Jimmy, right now, the dirty little secret in the league is the cross check is becoming an epidemic.
Yeah. Yeah, it's too loose right now with that. They need to tighten up and get that out. All right, it looks like that's it for our questions. We appreciate you all asking the questions and all your comments and all your support as always. And I want to thank Michael Russo from The Athletic for joining us here on the eye test. He was great. It was good to see you two catch up too. And he's good. So I look forward. I'll see him here at dinner in a bit, and I'll thank him, Pierre. And, of course, thank our production crew in Montreal. And, Pierre, any thoughts on the games tonight before I let you go?
No, it'd be exciting. I just want to say we're thinking of the Petition family right now.
Yeah.
I thought yesterday was really a tough day for everybody that really cares about Canadian sports and Canadiana. And Darren was a really good friend and somebody to care about, but so to the family, we're thinking about them, and to all his friends and people that he worked with, we're thinking about them. And want to say hello to Tony Granado and to our friend Rosa. You guys keep kicking butt. You're on your way, both of you.
I echo all of that. And this has been another edition of the Eye Test on the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. Brought to you by TCS Customs and Logistics. Moving pieces, delivering peace of mind.